and welcome to A Little Crafting. My name is Annie and this is my creative podcast where I talk about all of the things that I'm making and hopefully show you as well. Today is Sunday the 3rd of December 2023 and it has been just under a month I think since I last recorded anything, but I have quite a lot to show you today. If you're new, kind of big welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy the content that I'm sharing at the moment, and welcome back to anyone who's been watching before. Thank you so much for sticking around. And if you want to find me on social media, I am a_little_crafting on Instagram and Ankiwoo on Ravelry. And generally I talk a lot about knitting, weaving, spinning, sewing, yarn dyeing, trying to think if there's anything else, embroidery as well. So I hope you'll find something crafty that you enjoy in this selection. Let's start off with what I am wearing, and this is something I finished about a year ago in terms of my knitted Slipover. This is the Weekend Slipover by Petite knit in V-neck version, and mine was knit out of Kremke Soul wool, and I think it's in their Wool Reborn collection, which is recycled wool. It's in navy, and then I've also used a Surrey silk alpaca from Fyberspates, which is cumulus in the indigo colourway, and it does create this really nice fluffy sheen, but you can also see kind of a bit of variation from the recycled wool. This actually has quite a few little pops of red and different colours in it rather than just being a flat navy blue. So I do really love this. The one thing I would do differently next time is make a smaller size. I think I only made the second size up, but I do typically have a very loose gauge, so I'm thinking I got the gauge swatch a bit wrong this time, and therefore it is quite big on me. So I would happily knit this again and probably will, but I'll knit the smallest size with the needle choice that I had, just to make sure it's not as baggy as this one. But it is really handy to just throw on. It's super soft, it's incredibly warm, especially when it's as cold as it is here in the UK at the moment. Luckily we haven't had snow in Surrey yet, although I think there was a little bit the other day, but it didn't stick. So yeah, I'd highly recommend the pattern in general. It's effectively a bulky weight when you combine those two yarns together. So it's DK plus lace weight technically, but I think also the cumulus is actually a bit thicker than that, so that could also be where I went a bit wrong. Although I do always do a gauge swatch, but sometimes that doesn't quite work out. So yeah, it went really quickly. I love knitting it. I want to knit more in a smaller size with different colours. But yeah, this is great, absolutely lovely. I wear it quite a lot in general. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this. Moving on to my works in progress, because I don't actually have any finished objects this time, unless you count something I'm going to show you later on. Let's start with another Petite knit shawl, and as everybody on the knitting internet is aware, this is the Petite knit Sophie shawl, so the larger version. I have been knitting this in my own hand dyed yarn. This is an organic merino DK, and it's non-superwash, and I just dyed it in this lovely bluey green colour, which I absolutely love. I have a pink one of these dyed in the same yarn that I wear all the time, so I wanted a blue one as well. And I'm just over halfway, so you can see that's about the halfway mark where my stitch marker is, and I've just done all of this section, so it'll get quicker and quicker as I go down to the other end. Overall, this shawl, or the one that I've got so far, is incredibly wearable. That's why I've opted to knit another one, and highly recommended because you can plan it to use up all of your yarn, which means you have no leftovers. So it works super well in that way. So yeah, that's how I'm getting on with that. It's very straightforward, nice and easy garter stitch back and forth with a an I-cord edge, which I think looks really neat and tidy. So yeah, that's my kind of like everyday, or when playing D&D. My husband and I are also playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 at the moment, so I'm knitting on this when I am playing those variations of D&D in real or online. So yeah, that's that one. I'm keeping it in a quince pie bag. She is unfortunately not making these and selling them anymore, but I do love this one, round bottom little bag that holds a small knitting project. This is a 2 skein one and it fits absolutely fine in here. There we go, project number 1. The second project was one that I showed a bit of last time. That is in my Hide and Hammer number 3 bag, in this lovely berry colour that I got from my husband a couple of years ago. And that is my Snefald shawl by Fyberspates, who is actually legger of Fyberspates. I am knitting this in the yarn that is called for, which is actually now discontinued, but it is the Knit by Numbers merino double knit from John Arben. There we go, Knit by Numbers merino. And I am knitting this in 4 colours. So there is a charcoal grey, a green, a white and a pink. And I have had a bit of a snafu with this so far. So I have been very much enjoying the colour work. I loved this section here. It does require you to hold 3 colours in stranded colour work at once, but I manage that over time. I just have to untangle the balls every so often. And then you move into this section, which is green with just the little specks of white, and then into this section, which is green and pink. I am playing a bit of yarn chicken, and you'll notice I showed you a full skein of the green already. So this section here, this green section with the white dots, is actually supposed to be longer than this, but I realised I was going to run out of yarn, and I thought I'd try and adjust it by shortening that section because it's the green yarn that I'm running out of. I only have a very, very tiny bit left, and I still have a few rows to do that are green and pink for these little sections here. So I thought I would just have to buy some more yarn. I think the pattern says that you should be able to do it with 1 skein. I'll go and double check to see if I was wrong. But I must have a gauge issue again, because again, I'm a loose knitter. I did do a swatch, but apparently I've loosened up during the actual project itself. So I had to find a skein of the green, and as it's discontinued, it's quite tough to find, but I did manage to find it luckily. If I was to start this project in 2 or 3 years time, I imagine I would not have had enough, and I'd have to even shorten this section more, and I'd have had to rip back. But I have the skein now. I'm not going to redo it to make this section longer because I've already gone into the pink, and the bobbles do take ages, so these little pink bobbles here. But yeah, I was a bit panicky there and suddenly thought, uh-oh, what am I going to do if I can't find the yarn? I'm just going to have to rip back. But yeah, again, in general, thoroughly enjoying this, really looking forward to having it finished. It will be steeked at the end, so I've got this steek section up here that I'm going to cut, and it will be a triangular shawl. I imagine that it will be shorter and wider by the time I actually, oh no, it may not be actually. yeah, probably shorter and wider, because I don't know if it's my stitch gauge or my row gauge that's the challenge, but that's fine for me. I just want a nice cozy shawl. It doesn't matter too much if it's exactly the same size as the pattern should be, and I'm glad I was able to find that other skein of yarn in a bit of a panic. So yeah, and that should be good. I think it's only a couple of rows at the end, so it probably isn't the same dye lot. It's slightly lighter actually, but I don't think it will show because it will be interspersed with the pink there anyway. And then it's only 2 rows probably that I need this for. And then I'll have to find something else to make with this, but I have so many options for just a skein of DK. So that should be fine. I'll list the colourways that I'm using down below. Whilst John Arbon have discontinued the merino, they are replacing it with a BFL, so I expect that the colourways are the same, but I didn't want to get a BFL version of this yarn and realise that it changed the project, if you see what I mean, especially because I've knit all of this in the merino version. So I spent a bit more on getting that discontinued yarn, but I'll be happier for it when it's finished. So yeah, that's where I am. Actually, this will be the top and then the point will be down here when I'm finished. Again, I need to change my needles to a longer cord because it's all bunching up again. I'm constantly doing that where I will do a few rows, change it and then go, oh, that's not big enough. Yeah, but it's looking lovely so far and I'm thoroughly enjoying the pattern, getting on quite well, other than that little issue with playing a bit of yarn chicken there. Yeah, I think I have less than 1 row of this current green available. Yeah, that is that one. Yeah, really enjoying getting back into colour work and eager to do some more again actually. So considering I've been doing a lot of spinning, I should probably pick up a colour work project with my Handspun, especially because that's actually nice and easy to do. Handspun's quite easy to use as one element in a 2-colour stranded knitting project. So that is that one. And then finally, I said last time that I was going to cast on a sweater, and that is the Stalic Tight by Camille Roselle. And I did my swatch, so this is what it looks like. I don't have the book up here, but I'll pop a picture of the finished pattern in here so that you can actually see what that looks like. It is a raglan construction and it has a turtleneck, and then the little stalactite elements in white kind of start on the main part of the body. So all I've been working on so far, let me get the yarn out of the way, is the kind of raglan construction. So there's not actually that much going on. There's a neckline, it's all rolling at the moment. But yeah, you can start to see the raglan increases going down the shoulders. I haven't done a huge amount on this. I think it's partly because I'm using quite small needles, despite the fact that I'm using Aran weight yarn. So I'm using 3.5 millimeters. And even though it's Aran weight, I am having to knit it on quite a tight set because I'm a loose knitter, otherwise it's going to be too big again. And therefore it's a little bit tougher to knit. But also I was using a very small cord before I switched over to this one. So again, I was kind of having everything bunched up. I think it'll flow a bit better now that I moved it onto another set. And yeah, it's just standard raglan at the moment, so quite straightforward. And then I think I'll pick up, well, I assume I'll pick up stitches for the turtleneck part later on. Yeah, but that's all I've got right now, so not much to show. But still enjoying it, and I'm very much looking forward to having the finished item soon. I yeah, like I said, I'm knitting this on 3.5mm needles. Not a huge amount else to say on the project itself. The yarn I am using is Cascade 220. Sorry for the crinkling of the bag. It's Cascade 220 Heathers, and I can't actually tell. Colour 8836. This is some yarn I got absolutely years ago, and I had a white or an off-white left from one of the other sweaters I knit in this, so that's what I'm using for the little stalactites. So I think it will be really lovely, kind of a grey blue colour, and I'm going to enjoy it when it's done. What I am finding with this yarn now, especially after knitting with Rerum Natura Gilliatt, is that it is a bit rougher, so it is kind of harder on my hands as I'm knitting it, but it softens up fine. So for example, my swatch is nice and soft, but when I'm knitting it from here, it's quite stiff or rough on my hands, so that's another reason I think I'm not knitting it so quickly. But yeah, I'll keep going and hopefully have more of a sweater to show you next time. And this is in my Antler and Acorn bag. I don't think she has any of these ones anymore, but I absolutely love this bag, and there are some other fabrics of a similar kind of shape on her Etsy store. There have been recently, so it's got this lovely strap to make it a crossbody bag. But yeah, absolutely love this bag. It's got pockets inside that are great, and it fits a sweater project really nicely. That is all the knitting I have to show at the moment, but part of the reason I haven't made much progress on my sweater is that I have been spinning like crazy. So last year in 2022 I got myself a World of Wool advent calendar, and before I started opening my new advent calendar this year, I wanted to get through the vast majority of the spins from last year's. And I have a few little bags to show you. I'm actually just gonna pause for a second and go and get the sheet that tells me what the fibres are before I show you those. So be right back. Right, so I showed you I think 1 and 3 last time that I had spun, and day number 4 is Finnish, Icelandic and Norwegian, Scandinavian and Finnish, Icelandic, Norwegian and Scandinavian mountain wool, which is this one, which is a lovely kind of mottled grey. I have 2-plied all of these, and I'd estimate them to be about a sport to DK weight for the most part. That was day 4 last year. Day 5 is carrots and milk and mince pies, and it's kind of a red and a white, but it does go a little bit orange, or to me it looks a bit more strawberry, and that's this one here. And that one is milk fibre, mulberry silk and superfine merino. You can see it's silk from there. The next one I actually thoroughly enjoyed, despite the colour not being something I would go for, and it's Naughty List, which is merino, flax and llama, and I absolutely loved spinning this. So I might see if I can find some other blends that are like this. It's super dark but really nice and shiny. So yeah, I really liked that one. Definitely one where I'll go, I'm tempted to spin more shiny black yarn in future. Number 7 is gonna have to be handled with care because it is tweed, kid mohair and baby alpaca, and it is the reason I am sneezing a lot at the moment, because I do have a slight mohair allergy, and I only realised that this had mohair in it after I'd finished spinning it. This one's really nice but would not spin again. I found it was actually quite hard on my hands, probably because of that sensitivity to mohair, and I am definitely feeling it as soon as I get it out of the bag. My nose is starting to itch already. So that's going to go to someone else to knit with, because I can't knit with that. Number 8 is the next one. This one is baubles, and it's kind of purpley and green. This one was just merino. Quite fun to spin, but not my colours at all. I'm not a big fan of this like light purpley lavender colour. If I'm gonna be wearing or knitting with purple, it's going to be a dark purple, like more of a jewel tone, rather than something that's light. And number 10 is Winter Lake, which is bamboo and merino. And that was really lovely, although very slippery. I actually don't think I'd do this blend again, just because it's very slippery and therefore it's hard to make really consistent, even wool or yarn with it. And then I am currently spinning number 11, although I've brought just a bit of the fibre up here. It's white with just bits of black and grey. And that is Santa's Socks, which is superwash blue faced Leicester and tweed wool. I have spun up quite a few of the later ones. I'm trying to remember which ones without having them in front of me, so I will have some yarn already ready to knit from the rest of them. But thoroughly enjoying getting back into this. I have already been opening my new calendar, so I will keep going with my daily spins to try and get those all finished. Next up, I have been doing a little more spindle spinning. So I was inspired by Andrea Mowry, or Drea Renee Knits, challenge to spin 15 minutes on a spindle each day for 100 days. I am a spinning wheel spinner for the most part. I only recently bought myself a spindle, so I definitely need the practice, and I have been quite impatient with it as well. But this is exactly what I need really to get the practice in, because 15 minutes a day is really easy to do. And yeah, I've just been doing it the last couple of days already. I started on the 1st of December. It helps, it's alongside my advent calendar opening and all of that. So I have a Turkish spindle. This one is Babinga and maple wood, and I bought it from Tine and Floyd on Etsy. I think it's a 49-gram spindle, so it is quite heavy relative to a lot of the ones you can buy. But it is absolutely beautiful. Let me make this work. There you go. Hopefully you can see that okay. Yeah, and it's a Turkish drop spindle. So you create a centre pull ball on here, and once you're done, you can take this section off and the two bars out, and then you have your centre pull ball, which I thought was really nifty and nice. And I am spinning just a little bit of fibre that I got from Fibre in a big pack. One of the colours that I probably wasn't going to use with others. It's a white with some greeny sections and some kind of beigey sections. And yeah, I think I've been getting better, definitely. The wheel spinning means that I know how to draft already, which I think really helps. And I'm enjoying doing the 15 minutes a day. What I've been doing is recording that 15 minutes, so I'll have some snippets to show in my Vlogmas, which I'll probably do every 5 days. So I'm going to record a few bits and then publish them in one video every 5 days rather than doing a daily video, just because it is a bit less pressure to kind of get those recordings done each day. So yeah, and that's what it looks like as the kind of fibre top. It is Polworth fibre. Yeah, so green and a bit of yellow mixed into the white fibre there. Yeah, just generally enjoying it, and I have been doing daily wheel spinning as well, so I can kind of join into both ends of the challenge, as I think she started the 15 minutes in the morning of spindle spinning and 15 minutes at night of wheel spinning, that I might have to keep going, especially now I've got the advent calendar from last year to finish off and the advent calendar from this year to start. That's all the actual spinning, but I did have a little dyeing experiment 2 weeks ago. So I wanted to share what I've done with that. So I'm going to show you blues first of all. And these two sections of fibre were dyed in exactly the same way, but on 2 different types of fibre. The first one I'm going to show you is a light grey Herdwick, and this one is really just a bit of a test. I wanted to see how this worked out because one of my friends may be able to get me a Herdwick fleece, and I want to know how it spins, how it dyes, etc., to see if it's worth doing. So this is how it turns out. It's got a light grey base, so you can see all of that coming through, but it has still taken quite a bit of this lovely colour. And then exactly the same method with some undyed Corriedale, and that's the effect that you get with that. So obviously it is much more saturated, it takes a lot more dye, it's more vibrant, and really lovely. I'm going to spin this up fairly soon to go with some other yarn that I've spun. But yeah, I thought that's really interesting to show the difference and test out how the same method impacts yarn differently, or sorry, fibre differently, or wool types differently, sheep breeds differently. So yeah, interesting experiment there. I'm going to spin both of these up and see how they turn out in the end. We'll be especially interested in how this one spins. It does kind of molt quite a lot. There's a lot of fluff sort of pulling off this, so I'm not sure how it'll go, but let's see. Can only try. The other experiment I did was a similar kind of thing, but I wanted to try a multicoloured dye on 3 different breeds. So I'm going to show you the darkest first. This one is Masham, and this is how the braid turned out. So really dark and moody, kind of a nice dark green teal colour and a very sort of dark rust colour in the middle. And then the next one I dyed, and these were all from World of Wool as well, by the way, the fibres originally, except for the last one that I'm going to show you. This one is Kent Romney, so more vibrant. The kind of tealy colour actually went quite turquoise around the edge, and the middle section is still quite moody, but brighter. And then the last one was some merino fibre, and this is actually, is it Viola? By John Arbon. I bought out a whole load of their fibre when they were discontinuing the merino, and this is Falklands merino. So brighter, but actually lighter at the same time in terms of vibrancy. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and I'll pop a picture in here of all of them together so that you can actually see the impact. Again, I'm gonna be spinning this up as an experiment. I think I will do a 2-ply for all of these to see how they compare. I might do a 3-ply of the others, the blue ones. But yeah, I absolutely love the Kent Romney actually. I think that is my favourite of the 3. The merino I think is not as bright as I thought it would be, which is interesting because I thought the merino would take the colour more. And these were dyed in exactly the same pan, so I don't think there should be that much difference between them. And yeah, actually the Masham is really beautiful as well, especially where you can see the way that I've tied it. You'll get some lighter bits, so there'll be lots of nice variation in that. I do quite like the kind of chocolatey effect of the copper at the end as well. So yeah, really pleased with that. There was a point during the dyeing process where I thought I'm just going to get a really muddy colour and just like a one-off mud rather than any actual vibrant colour, but it turned out much better than I thought. So I used 3 colours of dye. I used Jacquard acid dyes, and I think it was teal, olive and burnt orange or bright orange. I can't remember which one, but yeah, really pleased with the outcome there, and I hope that it will show in the Handspun too when I get to actually spin them. But yeah, that was a lot of fun to try. Let's move on to acquisitions, as I have a couple to show you. Now sadly I know that Pom Pom Quarterly is unfortunately closing down, as in their last issue is the latest one and they won't be publishing anything anymore, which is really sad because they were one of the magazines that was still physically printing, which was great. I really liked that, and had really good quality photos and really good quality patterns throughout. I therefore took the opportunity to buy something from their website and had to get myself Ready Set Raglan, which is one of their book publications. That is this one here, so I'm really pleased to have it. There was a discount, I think, on most of the stuff in their UK shop, and I am really looking forward to getting to grips with this, especially knitting the one that's actually on the front, because I just think that will be lovely. And I really think that raglan styles suit me quite well, whereas, as mentioned in the last episode, drop shoulder is not so great on me. So I'm going to be looking at what other options there are to perhaps create my own raglan pattern and knit something a bit more bespoke in raglan as just a cozy sweater as well. The mohair is getting to me a little bit. I shouldn't have taken that out of the packet. Sorry for the crinkling. I also purchased a couple of other things from Furbeck Fibres that I mentioned before. So I have 200 grams of this Polworth Woodland Sprite. What I really want to do with this is spin up for the pressed flower, either cardigan or sweater, but having just mentioned that I'm not great with drop shoulder, both of those patterns are drop shoulder. I want to see if I can adapt it to a different sweater construction, but I have no idea how to do it yet. So if you've done this before, please give me your advice and tips on whether that's actually something feasible before I go ahead and purchase the pattern. I really love the pattern, as in the stitch pattern. I've used it on the pressed flowers cowl already, and I would love a sweater with it in. So I either could try and adapt it for a yoke somehow. I'm not sure it would really work because I'd have to increase in that mosaic stitch pattern, or something else, maybe a raglan. I don't know. How do I do that with increases? So yeah, I get why it's a drop shoulder, because you can effectively just knit a square with the fibre, with the handspun popping out the way that it does, and the pattern mosaic stitching the way that it is. So yeah, I'll have to think about it. I might have to try a different pattern first, to be honest. Let's see. But yeah, I bought this specifically for that stitch pattern. So I have 200 grams of this to spin at some point. Secondly, apologies for the crinkling again. When I talked about not liking the light purple and liking dark purple earlier, this kind of shows that. This is another one from Furbeck Fibres. I don't think this had a colourway, but similar kind of dual tones. So it actually looks a lot darker in person than it's showing because of the daylight lamp that I've got. But yeah, greens, kind of burgundies, and this dark plum purple coming through on this one. This was just a fun purchase from me. And again, Polworth. Actually highly recommend both Polworth and Corriedale to spin. They've been really nice so far, and I think you can find them quite readily, and they're not very expensive. So yeah, that's that. I don't think I have anything else to share with you, but I expect to have a lot of lovely crafty things to show you next month. If I don't record again before Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays if you don't celebrate, and thank you so much for watching and sticking around. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like and subscribe, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye.